Okay, so in the Mahabharata, we have come to day 17 of the war, and Karna had woken up and knows that this is his last day, and he goes into the battle, and he is determined to do the best he can. Although in his hearts of hearts, he knows he can't kill Arjuna because his only hope was that Shakti, that weapon that was given to him by Indra. And now he had to use that Shakti on Gatakach. And so he knows, and he's got all these curses against him. Plus, he knows most and foremost that Arjuna has Krishna and no one can beat Krishna. He himself loves Krishna so much. So interestingly, that he wakes up that morning on day 17, and the first person he thinks of is Krishna. And he even thinks, except for Duryodhana, and I love Krishna so much, and if it wasn't for Duryodhana, I would love Krishna the most. And so interesting that they haven't spent a lot of time together, right? Krishna and Karna haven't spent a lot of time together because Karna has been mainly with Duryodhana. Krishna has 3 gazillion things to do. He's running Dwarka. He was helping Pandavas. He's doing this thing, that thing. And of course, even during the war, they haven't spent much time together. But still, Karna does have that love for Krishna. Sometimes it's interesting how we have. And that's why it's so important that when we cultivate something, we understand really what goes with us from lifetime to lifetime. So even parents will tell me, when I'm asking parents to send the Bal Vihar kids, more often than not, parents will tell me, this kid will happily come. This kid, puts up a fight. But this one, they love this culture. They love the story. They love doing the japa. And so why this difference? Because in this lifetime, we will have the prarabdha karma that we have come with, right? So in this lifetime, from all the possible things that we could experience, we choose. We're going to experience this world, our mini world within the bigger world. So like doctors working in hospitals, they have a little mini world and then bigger world. Or even something like skateboarding. Somebody like me doesn't know anything about that world, but there's a whole world. And sometimes when the teenagers come and they're watching those Instagram videos only and those YouTube videos on the famous people in that field, which someone like me don't know. Different types of skateboards also possibly, I don't know. So we live, the prarabdha karma that we come with determines our vasanas that we're going to experience in this mini world that we experience in the bigger context of the world. And those we finish. We come, we exhaust, and we finish. Something like you go to buy a meal, you buy the burger, you finish it, done. So prarabdha is like that. It's start to finish, done. But when we come, the soul's journey is a continuous journey from lifetime to lifetime. So that it's not a start finish this lifetime, the way our karmas is start finish this lifetime. That's like a maturing. So if in one lifetime we develop and cultivate bhakti or any of the virtues, patience, courage, acceptance, right? Then those virtues, no matter which lifetime after that, we'll still have it. So my mini world of skateboarding or my mini world of cooking or my mini world of gardening, that may not come with me to any other lifetime. But the quality we develop of whatever helps us to get moksha, that comes with us. And so seeing Karna has this devotion for Krishna, it must have been cultivated in some other lifetime. Because in this lifetime, he has it. In this lifetime, his relationship is with Surya, and it's in this unexplicable attraction that he feels for Surya Devata. And of course, we know it's because it's his father. He doesn't know that. But even there, he is very diligent and he's very disciplined in his spiritual, in his sadhana, in his everyday woke up, did Gayatri Mantra, every day did charity after Gayatri Mantra, woke up at the same time, woke up early, went to the river. So that discipline was definitely there. Of course, that's also Kshatriya qualities that he'll uplift. So for him to say, if it wasn't for Duryodhana, I would love Krishna the most, already sets this wonderful stark difference between Karna and Arjuna. Because Arjuna, when he was given the choice between Krishna and the army, between Krishna and anything, the choice is Krishna. And Karna has that same choice. Of course, Duryodhana had the choice too. Duryodhana also didn't choose Krishna. Karna here has this choice. Maybe it's not quite as explicit a choice, but all of us are constantly choosing. Even though nobody's telling us you have these two choices, all of us are constantly choosing. Even something like alarm rings in the morning, we choosing snooze or we choosing get out of bed. Right? Nobody has to tell us we have the choice, but we are choosing. Karna chose Duryodhana, which is interesting because in one way, it's one of his most beautiful qualities because of that sense of loyalty and gratitude. And in another way, it's his biggest weakness. It's his greatest flaw. Because when he chose Duryodhana, not only did he choose to be Duryodhana's friend, he chose to do whatever makes Duryodhana happy. And what makes Duryodhana happy was belittle Pandavas, take whatever's the Pandavas. And so then that he chose to do actions that he himself knew weren't befitting of human birth. Right? To steal is something, I'm jealous is fine. All of us feel jealousy. To steal, every single person knows it's not fine. And Game of Dice was pretty much that. Right? You cheated the other people out of their wealth. And Karna happily does that. How does he happily do something so adharmic? Because he chose Duryodhana. Imagine when we make choices, the ripple effect that it has, huh? The choices we make then, the actions we do, and then the person we are. So who's Karna now? Bad guy. And actually, when you look at him, such a nice guy, has so many good qualities, has so much potential. Yeah. But you look at the story, he's definitely villain. No matter how sorry you feel for him, he's definitely villain. It was his idea to strip Draupadi in the court. It was him that broke the first rule in battle when Abhimanyu was killed. They were 7 of them, fighting Abhimanyu, who was a 16-year-old kid. Still, they resorted to cheating to kill him. Right? And who was the one that made that first move? Drona's idea, but Karna executed. And there too, it was murder. If you're fighting in a war, it's not usually considered murder. But in Abhimanyu's case, they broke every rule. And so it was no longer war, it was murder. So when you look at the story, he's a villain. When you look at him as a person, you don't want to see him as a villain. Poor guy was abandoned by his mom, was always feeling like wanting to find where he belonged. And so we have that empathy for him. So depending on who we choose. Do we choose Krishna or do we choose? And here it's, do we choose our greatest attachment? Because that's what Duryodhana was. Duryodhana was Karna's greatest attachment. And so we might think, no, we're not like that, but we are. Even when we have to choose Krishna versus who's our greatest attachment? Kid, son, daughter, or spouse, or parent. Who do we choose? We're so much more like Karna and Duryodhana than we are like Arjuna. Sometimes when people say, I studied, but it's not going through, and it's because we're so much more like Karna and Duryodhana than we are like Arjuna. Arjuna chose Krishna. Yeah. We choose other people. Our attachments usually. Now, Arjuna chose Krishna. He still had immense love for his family. Like, it's not like Arjuna chose Krishna and then he didn't love his family. So much love for Yudhishthira and adores Draupadi. So much love he had for Abhimanyu, even Ghatakach. Watching both of them die was so incredibly painful. So even his Satyaki, we see, right? We're seeing their interactions throughout the whole Mahabharata war. So choosing Krishna doesn't mean you stop loving everyone else. Somehow, sometimes people make this, like I love my, whoever it is, my family member so much. And then if I feel if I chose Krishna over them, that means I don't love them. It's not true. Because Krishna loves them too. Whereas Karna chooses Duryodhana, Duryodhana doesn't like Arjuna. Duryodhana doesn't like Yudhishthira. Duryodhana doesn't like so many people. Arjuna chooses Krishna. Krishna loves Duryodhana. Krishna loves Karna. Krishna loves everyone, all in sundry. And so actually, it's not that I'm choosing Krishna over this other person, and so I love the other person less. I love them so much. Just when I choose Krishna, my actions will be more likely in the direction of dharma and self-evolution. When I choose my attachments, my action is going to be more likely in the direction of indulgence or some kind of emotion. So Karna wakes up with this thought, and he also knows today is his last day. And so he wanted to really enjoy his time. So first thing he does is he spends time with Duryodhana. And if you read how beautiful their friendship is, really, really, like it would have been a perfect friendship, how much they care for each other. Right? So like, can't remember who puts on whose armor for them. Duryodhana puts on Karna's armor, Karna puts on Duryodhana's armor, but that much like affection, that much care, that much concern, that much wanting to be a part of the other person's life, right? Even with the way they speak to each other. So considerate of what the other person is feeling in that moment and to say the right thing. So really their friendship is incredibly beautiful. Just the desire of Duryodhana's jealousy is interested. And even their friendship is so beautiful because, so day 17, already I have mentioned Karna dies. Day 18, when Duryodhana wakes up and Karna is not alive, he looks at everything differently because he looks at it the way Karna would have seen it. And he's actually a different person. Like that's how beautiful their friendship was. And that's why it's such a tragedy that they made such unhealthy choices. Okay, so we're going to pause here on Karna and Duryodhana having this morning session before the war starts. Oh no, we have to go further. And then they go into battle, right? They create their formation. It's the first day. It's the first day that Karna is chief. Well, he became the chief on day 16 after Drona died. It's the first day that he gives all the commands, he does all the setup. But he goes in there with, interesting, I've said this a few times, when we know we're going to die, it's almost like the star blazed the brightest just before it withers away from the sky. So Karna knows he's going to die. And so he goes out there with gusto. And he's causing havoc, even though at this point in time, I think on day 17, Kaurava side has something like 5 or 6 people left. And Pandava army has 150, which is interesting considered that at the beginning of the war, Kauravas were 11 Akshanis, which is 100,000, I think. And Pandavas were 8 Akshanis. So like Kauravas quite significantly outnumbered the Pandavas on the day 1 of the war. And day 17, they had 5 or 6 people left on the battlefield. And Pandavas have a good 150 people left on the battlefield. Already an indication of who's going to win in terms of numbers, but not in terms of skill. In terms of skill, a lot of people on the battlefield had immense skill. So what does Karna do? Like I said, he's been fighting with each of his brothers now that he knows his brothers, and he has insulted them. But day 17, he particularly picks on Yudhishthira. Not sure exactly why, but he just, and his greatest affection once he found out that they his brothers was for Yudhishthira. In terms of personality. And it's interesting that it's Yudhishthira because he recognizes the nobility of Yudhishthira's heart, the purity with which he's lived. And suddenly there's this immense respect. So all this time he's been Duryodhana's friend. And every time he looks at Yudhishthira, there's hate. Right? Like how he got everything and it should be Duryodhana that should be the king. It should be Duryodhana that has all this wealth. It should be Duryodhana that should be praised. Why does he feel all that? Because he's attached to Duryodhana and Duryodhana feels all that. Right? And that's another interesting thing, that we don't feel necessarily the emotion that's true to us. We're feeling the emotion that the person we attach to feels. We do this all the time. And so Duryodhana had all this jealousy for Yudhishthira, and so suddenly Karna's feeling all the throughout from day 1, right? Literally from the first day he met them, he became Duryodhana's friend, and it was, we have to get rid of Yudhishthira, became the main focus of their lives. We have to insult Yudhishthira, we have to be better than Yudhishthira. Now suddenly he finds out Yudhishthira is his brother, and he suddenly thinks, Yudhishthira is amazing. He's intelligent, he's patient, and wow, Yudhishthira has endured. Like more than anyone, Yudhishthira has endured. Like Draupadi had to endure the insult of that court. Yudhishthira had to endure it too. And then he had to endure being blamed for that. So, and yet, not for a moment did he become bitter. Not for a moment did he go back on what he believed in. Did he compromise? Not for a moment did he lose faith. And not for a moment did he speak harshly. And that's interesting because day 17, a lot of the vows get fulfilled. Arjuna takes a vow, it gets fulfilled. Bhim takes a vow, pretty much close to getting fulfilled. Nakula took a vow. All the vows were, I'm going to kill this person, I'm going to make this person suffer. All the vows were taken after the game of dice. So everybody was super duper, extremely angry. Yudhishthira didn't take a vow to kill anyone. Yudhishthira didn't take a vow to seek any kind of vengeance. Right? Even after enduring immense pain, Nothing horrid came out of his mouth. And so Karna is appreciating all these beautiful qualities. But what does he do? And this is the difference. This is the difference between I choose Krishna versus I choose Duryodhana. So if I choose Krishna and I see somebody is such a noble, amazing person, what would I do? Praise, or at least be respectful, even if I'm not going to praise. Karna chose Duryodhana. So what does he do? He goes into the battlefield. He picks a battle on with Yudhishthira. Now they have fought yesterday also. Yesterday means day 16 of the war, not our yesterday. Mahabharata yesterday. And Yudhishthira put up a great fight. And he held his own, and he was able to, well, not defeat Karna, but it was, what do you call it? Stalemate. Nobody won, right? So he was able to stand there and he was able to match the level of Karna, which is amazing. But today Karna knows he's going to die and he's just in another zone, and he gets out there and he creams Yudhishthira. Like, really. But he doesn't just fight. It's very angry, bitter, and he is incredibly nasty with the way he speaks. So he insults Yudhishthira to the point where, remember I said Yudhishthira didn't even curse after the game of dice. Yudhishthira's angry. Right? To make Yudhishthira, also you have to remember it's day 17 of the war. Emotions are rampant. They haven't slept since day 15 of the war. Before Bhishma died, they used to go sunsets, battle finish, everybody rest. Since Abhimanyu's death, they haven't been sleeping. There was attacks through the nights. There were fights through the nights, and there was all the stress that was going on. So one, you're tired. Two, you've seen so much bloodshed. You've lost people you love dearly. Everybody is highly emotional. So Yudhishthira could have gotten angry because of that. But it also shows how far Karna pushed to make someone like Yudhishthira angry. And then he shoots and he injures Yudhishthira. So I think the arrow had actually pierced quite close to Yudhishthira's heart. Now he has taken a vow that he won't kill. He's promised Kunti, sorry, it's not a vow, that he won't kill Yudhishthira. So the arrow didn't kill Yudhishthira, but enough of a wound to make everyone worried. I mean, you're on the battlefield, arrows are everywhere. You know what to worry about and not what to not to worry about. So Yudhishthira gets taken away to his tent to deal with the wound. Everybody's fighting. Word reaches Arjuna. Yudhishthira has been hurt. He has gone for treating the wound. Arjuna is horrified. Yudhishthira is his, well, father, but also like a guru. Like there's so much love and respect for Yudhishthira. So Krishna looks at Arjuna and says, it's time. So they could have fought early in the morning, and Karna left his camp saying, where's Arjuna? I have to kill Arjuna. But Krishna decided to do other battles with other people. And Arjuna is looking at Krishna saying, come on, let's go. We have to kill Karna. And Krishna said, let him get tired first. Then we'll fight him. First thing in the morning, everyone's, more energetic, more clear. This is just strategy. So you see, even in small, small ways, Krishna would look out for Arjuna. It's so Arjuna is going to win this fight. We already know it because he's got so many boons and blessings from so many people, but still, this way of Krishna was just in such small, small ways, just always looking out for Arjuna. So when they hear Yudhishthira has been hurt, Krishna says, okay, time, we have to go. Let's deal with Karna. And Arjuna says, but no, I need to see Yudhishthira first. I just need to see his face. I just need to know he's okay. And then we'll go. Then we'll go to deal with Karna. And then this is a very interesting thing. So Day 17 of the war, Yudhishthira has been injured and insulted by Karna. He's had about 4 fights with Karna over the last 3-4 days. Every time Karna has been very insulting. And the whole time, from the very first time Yudhishthira saw Karna, like way, way, way back in that graduation ceremony when he first walked into the amphitheater, Yudhishthira had this feeling in his heart that there's only one person that could possibly hurt Arjuna, and it's Karna, and I don't like it. And when Karna and Duryodhana became friends, it was the only thing that didn't sit so well with Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira is not a malicious person. He's not a vindictive person, but he knew that Karna was to some extent a threat. And the minute we feel threatened, there is fear in our hearts. And so there has been this little fear. Yudhishthira, with all his faith, like so much faith Yudhishthira has. Like if Krishna says stand, Yudhishthira stands. Like without thinking 2 seconds, he would just, so much faith. And then fear creeps into your heart. Just a little bit fear, huh? And it ruins everything. Because now Yudhishthira is anxious. Karna is still alive. Why is Karna still alive? Arjuna took a vow to kill Karna. He told me he had killed Karna for 13 years in the forest. He was supposed to, all these weapons, all the tapas he did to collect, and he said he will win the war and he will be able to deal with Karna. And why is Karna still alive? And all of this is because he's just been insulted, he's just been injured, and Karna is still alive. And why isn't Yudhishthira? Why isn't Arjuna killing Karna? And just at that moment, Arjuna comes into Yudhishthira's tent to see if he's okay. Now Yudhishthira's in his own head thinking all these different things, and he sees Arjuna and he thinks, oh, you've come to tell me that Karna is dead. Yay, finally. And so Yudhishthira gives quite a long, like, finally the relief that Karna is dead and you did it, Arjuna. I knew you would do it. And I always had confidence that you would do it. And Arjuna says, wait. Karna is not dead. I was just going to go fight him now. I just came to see you. And suddenly, like, this is interesting how life works. Somebody who has been so self-controlled. Yudhishthira was so self-controlled. The entire game of dice, head down. All those vows and all that anger and all of that, head down. 13 years in the forest. Controlled. He didn't say anything to anyone. He didn't say anything to Draupadi. He didn't say anything to Bhima, even though they taunted him. He didn't say anything to Yudhishthira. He didn't say anything to Arjuna. So much self-control he's had. And suddenly, something in his head snaps. Fear, plus lack of sleep, plus so much grief they've all been experiencing. And Yudhishthira says, to the effect of, Arjuna, you're useless. Those weren't the exact words, but that's to the effect. Like, why haven't you killed Karna? Like those 12 years in the forest when you were doing the tapas and collecting all the boons and the weapons from all the gods, weren't you supposed to be able to do this? Why haven't you done this yet? You say you're competent, you say you're capable, you say you were in the war for me, and you haven't done a thing. Right? He's fought, huh? Like, this is what happens when we're angry and we're emotional. Arjuna has fought very, very, very well. This whole battle. Said, what's Yudhishthira saying? You haven't done a thing. Like, you do. And so finally, in all that rant about how you're so useless and, you said you'll do it. And what's the point of taking vows when you can't fulfill your vow? And you said you would take revenge for Draupadi and you will make sure that Karna is destroyed. And you're the only one that can destroy him. And you haven't destroyed him yet. It's day 17 of the war. So much that was built up in his poor heart all came flooding out. And then he said, what's the point of you having the Gandiva? Take the Gandiva, go and give it to Krishna, and Krishna will be able to do it in 2 seconds because you aren't able to do it. Let somebody else do it. Now, after he says that, Arjuna doesn't know what's happened to Yudhishthira. Like, this is not the Yudhishthira he knows. He's so taken aback. Yeah, maybe malfunction in his thinking also. Please remember, he's also been fighting. He's been really, like, if anyone's had to put in incredible amount of physical effort during this war, it's been Arjuna. An incredible amount of mental effort he's had to put in this war, because all those weapons take so much concentration power. Suddenly, he's staring at Yudhishthira. He's also brain freeze, maybe malfunction in his thinking. He's also highly emotional. He was worried something happened to Yudhishthira. He came here to check on Yudhishthira. And what does Yudhishthira do? Scream and yell at him and tell him, give away the Gandiva bow. So he pulls out his sword. Who? Arjuna pulls out his sword. Krishna is like, what's going on here? Why are you pulling out your sword? There's nobody in this tent except Yudhishthira. Why are you pulling out your sword? And so Arjuna has taken a lot of boons. No, vows, not boons, vows. Arjuna has taken a lot of vows. And one of his vows is, if anyone insults the Gandiva bow or tells him to give up his Gandiva bow, he will chop off their heads. Sword is out. Why? Because he will keep his vows. He always keeps his vows. So he tells Krishna, Yudhishthira just insulted Gandiva. Poor Krishna. You have to fight the enemy and you have to solve all the emotional drama in your own tents as well. Krishna is literally like, what's it called? Face palming. Like, what do you do with these people? Like, there's these two people, Arjuna and Yudhishthira, love each other so much. Like, this is Arjuna cannot live if he does anything to Yudhishthira, because he has another boon. Wow, I'm using the wrong words. Anybody who causes Yudhishthira's blood to fall, Arjuna will kill. So if he's the one that's going to hurt Yudhishthira, he's going to die next, because he fulfills his vows. So Krishna said, okay, let's just calm down. Let's think this through now. But once something is said, it can't be taken back. So Arjuna needs to fulfill this vow for in his own sanity. Just the way they lived their lives in those days, that it was so sometimes so black and white, so absolute, and sometimes not. So Krishna tells Arjuna, there's more than one way to kill a person. So scriptures say that when you love and admire someone, and that person is worthy of our respect and admiration, like a guru, like a father, if you insult them, it's equivalent to death. Now, we might not understand the extent of that in today's world, but you have to remember, in that day and age, that sense of respect and that sense of adoration was like a whole new level. They weren't so casual with their talking how we are now. And so to insult someone took a lot of emotion, hate, reaction. And it also hurt the other person so much more. I think in today's world, where we're hearing insults left, right, center, we don't get as insulted also. Whereas when it's a very dignified life and then one insult is, it's more of a slap on the face. And so what he said is that the pop, the suffering you get from doing this action is equivalent to the suffering you would get from actual killing. Now, it's only true if you adore that person. And so in this case, Arjuna does. In this case, well, we're going to see what happens. So Krishna says this is better because then Arjuna, Yudhishthira is still alive, you still alive, we can go forward. We have to finish this battle. So Arjuna takes a deep breath and he has to fully, properly insult Yudhishthira. Now, if he had brain freeze a bit earlier, it's gone because he does a phenomenal job in insulting Yudhishthira. Like he did a really good job. So one of the things he says is, you're not a worthy king, Arjuna is saying to Yudhishthira. Now remember, he's insulting. He doesn't actually think this. He's saying it to replace having to actually kill Yudhishthira. He's not meaning a word he's saying, because even as he's saying it, tears are flowing from his eyes, because he doesn't want to be saying all these horrible things. But he says, you are not a worthy king, and it would be much better if you went off to the forest on your own and always, instead of making us always go off into the forest, and hand the kingdom off to Bhim. Bhim would be a far better king than you. Now, nobody would ever say such a thing. But remember, yeah, you are insulting. And so next in line to get the kingdom would be Bhim. So it's the logical choice. When I read this, I actually paused and thought, what kind of king would Bhim be? Might be a real fun kingdom if Bhim was the king. I mean, he had lots of good virtues also. It's not that he didn't have. And I don't want to go into all the insults because I have no intention of collecting papa. But it was to the effect of, you are addicted to gambling. It was your fault. We all suffered. We would have all been better off without you. All these horrible things that we usually say when we're angry. But we don't mean it because we actually love the person, but emotions get the better of us. So anyway, Arjuna does this incredible rant of insulting Yudhishthira. And then he can't handle it. He can't handle that he has said all these horrible things. And he immediately bows to Yudhishthira and he's weeping. And begging for forgiveness. And then finally he can't take it because Yudhishthira is not saying anything. Right? And he's watching Yudhishthira's face as he said everything. And I think they all just way too emotional at this point. Way too tired at this point. So once again, Arjuna takes out his sword. And Krishna is like, wait, now what? Now, why again? Why is the sword taken out again? Please stop. And this time he puts it towards himself, right? And that's what I said. He can't bear hurting Yudhishthira. Arjuna cannot bear hurting Yudhishthira. There's just too much love and respect. He was going to hurt himself the minute he did anything. So he was going to take his own life, which is not the first time Arjuna has decided that this would be the best solution to things, but Kshatriya Dharma, whatever, maybe that was the way they thought in those days. So again, if Arjuna dies right now, again, battle is over. Duryodhana wins because there's no way Yudhishthira is going to be able to handle Arjuna doing anything to himself. And it's too far, it's too far in the battle for them to be level-headed and to make. So again, Krishna says, okay, wait, let's think of another solution. And then he said, in front of somebody who is praiseworthy, if we praise ourselves, that is equivalent to killing ourselves. Now, this is actually true, huh? This is not Krishna making up stuff. In terms of the amount of suffering that we have, when we praise ourselves in front of somebody else who is praiseworthy. In today's world, I wonder if we even think about all these things. So instead of killing yourself, Arjuna, praise yourself. in front of Yudhishthira because he's far more praiseworthy than you. And Krishna himself praises Yudhishthira. And he's praised Yudhishthira just before this as well. When the first sword came out the first time, Krishna is praising Yudhishthira and saying, can you really kill such a person? So anyway, like I said, Arjuna's respect and surrender to Krishna, fortunately, thank you, was absolute. So he listens and he starts praising himself. And he doesn't do as good a job in praising himself as he did in insulting Yudhishthira. But I guess by now. But he does. And again, he feels horrible for doing it. But at least now, all those vows done. But it's not quite done. Because when Yudhishthira heard all those insults, something in him thinks, you're right, Arjuna. I don't deserve to be the king. I really should go to the forest and not be a burden on all your lives. And so now Yudhishthira is about to leave, having seriously considered the insults to be worthy. So again, Krishna is these people. But this is also very true of Yudhishthira. He was in no way arrogant, very, very humble. He didn't think he was beyond criticism. But normally, Yudhishthira thought things through very well. But right now, he's not thinking things through. So his humility lets him accept the insults, but the clarity of mind is not there to focus on what actually needs to be done. And he gives into emotion and thinks, okay, let me leave. And so now Arjuna's crying at Yudhishthira's feet, saying, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I love you so much. Please, you can't go. We wouldn't be able to survive without you. And apologizing profusely. And then again, in the midst of all our emotions, especially when we see somebody we love suffering, it helps to clear our thinking completely. And Yudhishthira says, no, Arjuna, this was my fault. I shouldn't have said anything about Kandiva to start with. Yeah. All of this was because I lost my cool. And so here again, we see the glory and beauty of Yudhishthira. And quickly, he's able to now rethink everything. He's able to see his fault. He's able to see the domino effect of his fault. And he's like, okay, done. All of it's done. It's forgotten. You are completely forgiven. You did what you need to do. I made a mistake. Now, go and fight Karna. And Arjuna asks for blessings before he goes. And this asking for blessings is so important. Invoking grace, invoking that I'm an instrument and I'm a, what's the word? Ambassador. And it's not that I am this amazing person, I accomplished so much. It's, I have received so much and I do this because of all the blessings that are bestowed onto me, which is such a different mindset that we see in Arjuna to Karna heading out there saying, I'm going to run havoc today, which he does. Although Karna has beautiful moments today as well. And then Yudhishthira gives blessings. It's a beautiful blessing. And then this in itself gives Arjuna so much strength. And I had mentioned that we get so much strength when we do things knowing that our elders have blessed us. And whether it be grandparents, parents, guru, it's this incredible strength that we have, an anchor that's inexplicable. We can have strength even if we haven't physically asked for blessings, but when we feel we've been blessed and then we go out there, it's almost like it's a kavacha. Kavacha means protection against so much. And so he does. He goes out there. And there's this fight between Karna and Arjuna. And it's quite legendary. It's one of those epic moments in the Mahabharata because they truly are matched as warriors. And maybe at other points, Arjuna has very fairly won. Even I think 2 days back in the battle, Arjuna very fairly wins. There's been times when Arjuna has fought Karna and Karna has ran away. But today, Karna is doing really well. He's putting up a really, really good fight. True to Kshatriya Dharma, where you give your 100%. And if you have to die, so be it. And that's in fact what he said to Duryodhana when he leaves Duryodhana. Today I will come back, having granted your wish of having killed Arjuna, or I will die as a Kshatriya in the battle, and I will see you in heaven. There's a special heaven where soldiers hang out. Apparently, there is. All the warriors from this battle go up there and hang out. Even when Gatakacha and Abhimanyu died, where the Vyasa had said they've reached and they're happy and they're watching over after y'all. So that's, and this was a normal goodbye that Kshatriyas in battle would say to each other. Even every day when Drona was commander-in-chief, Drona would start the day with, give your best, do your best. And if you should die today as a Kshatriya, know it to be a good death. And so interesting that they would live their lives. And I mean, maybe soldiers live their lives this way till today, that we talk about good deaths. Let our death be a good death. And what's a good death? I gave my best. That would apply to all of us, right? And many a times, because I think I attend more funerals than weddings for sure. Sometimes when people say so-and-so passed away and they're very upset, and I say, but they lived a good life. Like, yes, we sad that they're not with us anymore, 100%. But don't forget to smile that they lived a good life. And that's something definitely to celebrate. We feel grief. I'm not saying we don't feel grief, but interesting that we've forgotten to remember that they lived a good life as something to be happy about. Sometimes people tell me they were such a good person and they still died. We are going to die. There's no escaping that we're going to die. It shouldn't be like still they died even though they were a good person. That's not logical. We all going to die. It should be like, yay, they lived such a beautiful life. And this chapter has been complete. So nice when we complete things, no? When a project's done, when we finish school, when the house is built, it's complete and it was done well. So this battle between Arjuna and Karna can be very emotional, but I really don't like going into it. So we will do it very quickly. So they were fighting really, really well. And at one point, Arjuna started winning. And this is important to note that Arjuna started winning. Because it's not that Karna died because Arjuna wasn't capable. Karna dies because Arjuna was capable of killing him. And it's because he was capable of killing him and Arjuna starts winning that all the curses start taking effect. What was the first curse? The Brahmana had said that when you feel helpless, when you feel despair, your chariot will sink and you will have to come down on the ground. So just as Arjuna starts winning, in all this dry land of all of Kurukshetra, suddenly only where Karna's chariot's wheels are, the land becomes soft and his chariot sinks. So Karna gets off the chariot and starts trying to pull the chariot out. And this becomes one of those scenes where it's very hard not to cry, because you know the chariot has sunk because the curse is taking effect. You know you're not going to be able to pull the chariot out. And yet Karna, with all his energy, with all his strength, is trying to pull out the chariot. So Karna had killed a cow. And the Brahmana said, the cow was innocent, had done nothing wrong to you, and you killed it ruthlessly. And so your death will also be ruthless. So it will be, you're not on the chariot, you're on the ground. The cow was helpless, you'll also feel helpless. And Karna is trying to pull the wheel out of the ground. Arjuna stops fighting because Karna is not fighting. He is pulling chariot out of the ground. So Arjuna stops. This respect that you give the other person, right? Let them pick up everything again, let them get ready, let them be, then we'll fight again. And so even though Arjuna has spent the entire time that Arjuna has met Karna, he has disliked him with vengeance. Like, there's that one person in your life that you just love to hate. For Arjuna, that was Karna. And when it comes now to kill Karna, he's not. There's no hate in his heart. He's waiting patiently for Karna to pull the chariot out of the thing. And when the arrows do leave Arjuna's hand, it's not out of hate, it's not out of malice, it's not out of revenge. It's just a matter of, as a Kshatriya, I have to do this. So what's happening now? Arjuna has paused. Karna is getting the chariot out, trying to get the chariot out of the ground. Krishna looks at Arjuna and says, shoot. Arjuna is surprised. Like, let him know. Shoot. And Krishna says, which arrows? That's why I said, when Arjuna shoots, he shoots out of duty. Krishna has said, he takes the arrow, Krishna said, and he shoots. And every time Arjuna has had to do something like this, he can't look. When he had to kill Bhishmacharya, he couldn't look. Even when Drona was being killed, Arjuna couldn't look. Even now, he's really struggling. He's listening to Krishna because Krishna is saying he's doing, but he's really struggling doing it because Karna is defenseless. Curse number 2. Karna's guru cursed him that when you need this knowledge the most, you will forget it because you stole this knowledge. So Karna's on the ground. Arjuna's shooting the arrows at him. He's trying to remember the mantras to use to counter these arrows, and he can't remember them. He knows them, he has learned them, he's used them in the past, but he's trying desperately to remember what it was, and he's not able to remember because that curse has taken effect. And Shaila, who's his chariot driver up until now, has been insulting him as per Yudhishthira's request, has become pin drop quiet. And in fact, there's compassion in his heart that Karna's actually fought really well. And this is so unfortunate. It's just so horrible to have to die in this way. So Karna does die having done his best. So it's a good death. Karna does die looking at Krishna. Because when Krishna says shoot, Karna looks at Krishna and says, no, Krishna, wait. And after that, he looks only at Krishna. And so actually, Karna's death's a good death. Despite all the wickedness that he has done, he dies looking at Krishna, and he dies having done his best. And he dies having all his wishes fulfilled. What was his first wish? He would know who his parents are. Right now, before dying, he knows. His second wish was he's a Kshatriya. Right now, before dying, he knows he's a Kshatriya. Third wish, he would do whatever he could to make Duryodhana happy. Yeah, he did so much to make Duryodhana happy. He did too much to make Duryodhana happy. Whatever was there in his heart, he gets. And most of us don't die having accomplished all we want. He does. Fourth wish in his heart, probably the first one, because it's the one he wants the most. I should be remembered well. Everybody loves him. He has been given this boon by, first, it was given to him by Indra. Second, it was given to him by, was it Krishna? Kunti. Kunti was the third one who gave him this boon, no? Who gave him? I don't think it was Krishna, it was somebody else. Then even Bhishmacharya gives him this boon, that he'll be remembered well. And then finally, even Yudhishthira will say it. So he gets all the things that he really wanted in his heart, he gets. Before he dies, he looks at Krishna and says, how can you do this? How can you kill me when I'm on the ground? How can you kill me when I'm helpless? These are against the rules of Dharma, Krishna. And Arjuna is agreeing. Arjuna doesn't, even though the rules have been broken by the other side, Arjuna doesn't want to break the rules, huh? It's Krishna. Krishna, oh my God. Krishna's words at this point in the battle are so harsh to Karna. And the first thing he says is, where were the rules when you killed Abhimanyu? Weren't you the first one who broke the rules by shooting Abhimanyu from the back? Why you didn't remember the rules then, Karna? If you know the rules so well, why didn't you remember the rules? And then, of course, he remembers game of dice. How many dharmic rules they broke on the game of dice. Do you have a right to pull a woman into the court? Never mind everything else you all said and did after that. Even just pull her into the court like she's property. Where was your sense of dharma then, Karna? And so before Karna dies, he has to hear every wrong thing he did from Krishna. Not in a sweet voice, huh? Krishna has spoken to him very sweetly in the past. Very, very sweetly. Krishna has told Karna in the past, I'll give you the kingdom. I'll tell Yudhishthira to give you the kingdom, and in a heartbeat, Yudhishthira will. But right now, Krishna is not being sweet. He's being fierce. Not mean. Fierce. It's a battle. You're killing your opponent. But Krishna is not killing Karna. Krishna is killing that tendency in Karna that made him choose all those vices. Karna has suffered so much this life. Just finish the suffering, so you don't have to bring any of it back next life. Sometimes we think, no, 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 save me. And then that suffering is still pending. Even when we go to healers or gurus sometimes and we say, take away this disease, it's not taken away, it's just postponed. So I postpone suffering because the minute I've suffered, I'm purified by it. And now I'm free of it. And that's what Krishna was doing for Arjuna, for Karna. And so it was Krishna's compassion that he wanted to finish all that suffering. So Karna is completely free of it. And the next life of his can be beautiful. Like this life already had so much suffering, finish it all. Yeah. Don't carry any of it forward. Don't postpone any more suffering. And so it's still quite early in day 17. A lot more happens in day 17. But we'll pause here with Karna's defeat. Cheers. There's cheers all through the Pandava army when Karna falls. Arjuna blows his conch, but there's no joy. But he blows his conch because Yudhishthira was waiting. When Yudhishthira hears the cheers and he hears Arjuna's conch, finally there's relief in his heart. But still he wants to see with his own eyes that Karna has fallen. So he finally comes out of his tent back onto the battlefield. We'll pause here. Any questions?
Hari Om Swaminiji. It's just an observation that was such a, beautiful description you gave, where somebody as conscientious as Arjuna had to do something which was a little gray at the behest of the absolute, and the absolute here is Krishna.
So it's not considered gray, right? Krishna knows very clearly what has to be done. It's not considered gray. Also, sorry, I didn't let you finish your question, but I'll just answer this bit.
Sure.
The law of karma states that every action will have a consequence. Karna has done actions. This was his consequence all coming to fruition. Arjuna had to play a part in making that come true. It wasn't Arjuna who decided that Karna had to be helpless. It wasn't Arjuna who decided that Karna would forget the mantras. But as a Kshatriya, he has to shoot. He shot.
So I'm just trying to, correlate this to what's happening in the world today. So we all understand the circular theory of life. That's what we believe in. That's a philosophy. But we do have in the world linear theories. And we see a lot of people at the behest of their absolute, or, their version of faith, doing things which are black.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, it's just something to ponder on. That's it. It was just a comment.
Yeah. Okay. So where does the papa lie and who bears the consequences? Okay. So if a servant is executing the orders of a master, consequences go to both, but to varying extents, depending on the intention in each one's heart and then the understanding and knowledge that each one has. So, for example, in World War II, when Germany was having those gas chambers to kill the Jews, most of the soldiers in the German army pressed that button because they had to. It was chain of command. There were very few who said no. And on saying no, they were killed. It takes a lot of strength to know that when you're going to say no, you're going to get killed. But they were a few. 10% of people didn't execute the order that they were given because they couldn't live with themselves after that. Yeah. 90% of people executed the order. And it was done, experiments were done afterwards to see if any one of us the statistics would be the same, and it would be. Very few people have that courage not to execute the order. So one of the things is the ability to take the consequences. And the second thing is the knowledge of how much we have. So when a servant is executing the order of the master, how much does the servant understand the consequences of that action? And how much do they take ownership of, I'm doing this because I've been told to do it, or I'm doing it and it's going to bear consequences no matter who told me to do it, right? That level of understanding will differ in how much reaction they have to face. But that they have to face a reaction is absolute. The extent of how much they have to face will depend on the intentions in their own heart and their understanding at that point in time. The consequences of doing that action will fall primarily on the master who said to do the action, because for them, intention is very clear, knowledge is very clear. Okay, so let's go back to servant. The consequence of the good things we do will be there. The consequences of the bad things we do will be there. So will they be suffering for killing other people? For sure. The extent of it might be less because of my ignorance. And the fact that I really wanted to do something that was for the Lord will ensure that I'm born again in an environment where I'm now taught clearly how to grow spiritually. It will definitely take me closer to the Lord. So motive is super, 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 super important.
So purity of mind,
Yeah.
in relation to where you are in your evolution state.
Yeah. Ignorance is no excuse of the law in any country and in spirituality also. And so that consequence will be there. Even if I don't know better, the consequence will still be there, but the extent of it will be less because intention overrides the actual action. I hope I've answered. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Earlier in the class, right at the start, you had mentioned Arjuna chose Krishna.
Arjuna chose Krishna.
Everyone else, or his attachments. And,
Yep.
Karna chose his attachments, and that made him the bad guy, right? Like even though he's a good guy, or you can see good qualities.
Yeah.
So can we just relate that more?
So Arjuna chose Krishna and he was a good guy, and Karna chose Duryodhana and he became a bad guy. So not just because we choose our attachment doesn't mean we'll become the bad guy, but increases likelihood.
So just relating that to more of today's world, like how do we choose our attachments? Or what does it look like choosing Krishna over our attachments?
In today's world, what does it look like to choose Krishna over attachments?
Is it all in the intention? How does that manifest in our actions? I'm struggling to
Scenarios.
like,
So it would be something to the effect of, I have the capacity to do something. But there's some level of risk in doing it, or there's some level of discomfort in doing it. And though, so then I don't live up to it. And so I'm still being vague. Let's give a very concrete thing. So more and more I hear people saying they don't want children because it's too much work. So they rather have the freedom to be able to travel whenever they want, go party whenever they want, and use the money however they want. Yeah. This is definitely attachment to indulgence. Yeah. Whereas having children, the way we grow as a person when we have that responsibility of looking after another life, right? The level of virtues and values that we have to practice, the level of sacrifice we have to practice, the level of patience, the level of like is phenomenal. And then me as a person grows so much in terms of maturity, in terms of detachment, in terms of understanding. So choosing our attachment is choosing my pleasure or my comfort over doing something that could be a little bit hard, but has so much benefit even to me. Plus, I bring a child into this world. I give them virtues and values. We aging population is such a problem in so many countries. We need the next generation to come and to continue everything, right? Um, not just traditions and all of that, but just social workings. Or again, I'm going to use a parenting example. Sometimes they'll have one and they don't want the other because they don't want the stress up. Like it could be money, or it could be the two kids fighting and sibling rivalry. And I don't want to have to deal with that. And parents have told me this in this many words, huh? Like who wants that hassle of having to, deal with their jealousies and their insecurities? No, no, I'm just going to have one. But it makes a world of difference to how that kid perceives life when they have a sibling and they don't have a sibling. It's much, 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 much better for the kid if they do. And actually, it's much better for the parents also. But some desire or some feeling of this is easier kicks in. So then, another example. I think it was Germany that refused to do business with China, even though China was cheaper, because China was using methods and equipment that were not conducive for environmental reasons, right? There were lots of chemicals, or there was lots of whatever, carbon footprints. And so they actually chose other companies where they were paying far more for to get the work done, but it was environmentally sustainable. Whereas most people in the world will go to China because they're cheaper. So two very concrete examples. Maybe something like there's a project and you could be the leader, but you being the leader means you're going to be working more and maybe not hanging out as much with family, friends, but the project's really, really worthwhile. And so then somebody thinks, nah, it's not going to even give me a pay rise. Why should I do all that work? So how much it benefits other people versus how much it benefits me. But whenever we do something, it always benefits us as well. I don't know if that helps. And that's just the top of my head. We can think of more scenarios also. So choosing Krishna is, in today's world, is things like that. Where we willing to sacrifice pleasure, money, name, fame, time, because we know it's the right thing to do. Okay, we'll conclude. Oh. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet, asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityarma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.